Hi friends, today we will be making our Mondrian Dot Day work of art. So you will receive a paper and it will already have a circle on it. Yours might be a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller than mine, but we're going to take our pencil right at the beginning and draw inside the circle our name and class code. And then we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut out our dot. We're going to be really careful to stay on that line. Okay, so I now have my circle. I'm going to flip it over. Now, I am going to do this next part in Sharpie. You are going to do it in pencil. But we are going to take our ruler and we are going to add some vertical or up and down lines and some horizontal or side to side lines. And we want to make sure these stay pretty straight, but we're going to follow just like Mondrian did. He didn't have like a perfect grid, so it wasn't like line, 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 not like a checkerboard or a tic-tac-toe board, but he kind of had lines going everywhere. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw mine in. Okay, so I think this is enough lines. You can see one of mine got a little bit crooked, which is why we draw in pencil first, but that is okay. We're gonna keep on going. So once you have drawn in all your lines, the next thing we're gonna do is get out our paint. Now Mondrian used 3 colors and they were our primary colors, so you will need red, yellow, blue. You will also need a water cup, a paper towel, and a paintbrush, as well as a messy mat to protect your table. So I have a few options for paintbrushes. These two are pretty similar in size. This will be good for filling in all the squares. And then I also have this smaller square brush to add my black lines later, and that's where I'll correct this little guy right here. If you cannot find a flat brush, or if there are not many in our paintbrush cup, I would share a flat brush specifically to get into those corners and to add your lines, because this will help us get really nice straight lines. So I have my red, yellow, and blue. Yours will be on a palette. Mine's just on a little plate. My water and my paper towel. I'm gonna go in and start adding color. Now, remember, Mondrian did not fill in every square. You don't wanna fill in every square, and you wanna keep it kind of even. So I don't wanna have like only red squares over here and only blue squares over here. I want a good mix. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna do all my red squares first. So I'm gonna start with my red, and I'm gonna be super careful, and I'm gonna take my time to fill in these squares nice and neat. Okay, so that's all that I'm gonna do with my red. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse my brush really, really good, and then wipe it on the paper towel. Make sure there's no more color in there. Making sure that my paintbrush is dry, because this is tempera paint, so we don't want a lot of water in our brush. It's not like watercolor. We want it to be very dry so that our paint shows up really, really well. Okay, I think that's a good amount of yellow. So again, I'm gonna rinse off my brush really, really well, and then make sure it's completely dry. And notice I'm not dipping into my water at all while I'm painting my one color. I'm only dipping into paint. We do not want to water down our colors. They will not show up as well. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna add my last color. Okay, so I have added all my colors. Again, I still have a few white spaces. Similar to Mondrian's work, he left quite a few white spaces. Because this is tempera paint, it will dry pretty fast. So like my reds and my yellows are already completely dry. I just need to wait about a minute for my blue to be completely dry to move on to my next step. Okay, now that everything is mostly dry, I'm going to take a thinner brush so it can be, again, this is what I recommend, this nice flat brush. However, brushes that are really skinny and come to a point like this are also really, really great for adding these lines. Now this is the step you want to be the most careful with. We need to add black lines over the lines that we drew. So yours will be a little harder to see because you use pencil, but you are going to paint straight lines right over those black lines that I have, or your pencil lines that you had before. And this will make or break the project. So you want to really take your time. You want to go slow. Sometimes it helps if you rest your arm on the edge of the table it'll help you keep a steady hand because again, we're just freehand painting these. So I'm gonna go in with my black on my tiny little flat brush or my thin brush if we don't have a flat brush. And I am going to start painting my straight black lines. This is also where if you make any mistakes, like I made this square a little off, you can go back and fix this with the black lines if you're really, really careful to make this look a little bit more square and a little bit less diagonal. Or if you went over on your lines somewhere, you can go ahead and cover that up with the black. Okay, so that is all of my black lines painted. Now I really took my time. I tried to keep my lines pretty straight. It's okay if your lines are not perfectly straight. It is very, very hard to paint perfectly straight lines. We just want to try our best. Make sure we go all the way to the edges. As you can see that I missed a little bit right there. You also want to take a moment to check to make sure you got in between every single box. So sometimes it's kind of hard to tell, or you skip over a line because you just can't see it anymore, especially if it's pencil. So make sure you go back, check to make sure there's a line everywhere that you drew a line. Make sure your name's written on the back. Once this is dry, and if you have some extra class time at the end, it definitely will dry by the end of class. You're gonna go ahead and upload this and then put it on the drying rack to turn it in.